You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating,
All right, go ahead, Chris.
All right. Well, welcome to the program, everybody. Today is Friday, 4/24. That's April 24th, 2015. We're back with All Things 3D. I'm your co-host, Chris, and we've got Mike. And we've got also a special guest crasher crashing in with us today, Sylvain. Say hello.
Hi.
And where are you from, Sylvain?
I'm from Paris, France.
From Paris. So, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about a little product/project he's been working on, and we will get into that in just a little bit. And as usual, Friday episode, we'll be covering some news items for some things that happened this week that stood out to both Mike and I. And if Sylvain wants to join in, he can do so at any point. So I don't know what's the video you got up behind you, Mike? What's going on there?
You know what? For some reason, and hopefully it's not because my Chrome browser wasn't updated, this is a VR, but for whatever reason, it's not showing up in VR. So hopefully that won't be a problem with my test footage later on. But, oh well, as I said, it wasn't going good for us.
And by VR, you mean you took this on your 360 VR camera that you've been toting around, and it's
this is not mine, Chris. This is another person who took a VR camera and went up the face of the Eiger North face, which is, there's a movie made about it. And it was cool, and even though, I can drop back to it. What's cool about it, and it's not shown here for whatever reason, I don't know if I got the wrong link, but with the 360 version, and it will be in the show notes, you can pan around in it, but I guess it's important that you have the proper latest Chrome browser in order to view it. But like the ones that I've created, you can pan around, you can look down, you can look up, and kind of feel like you're actually there. Another cool thing, and that if you're not aware, if you've got an Android device, you can also play these panoramics that are available on YouTube. So you can put it in front of your face and move around with it. They don't have the split stereo view that you could use in your Oculus Rift or some other product like the Gear VR. That's coming, but the fact that you can put it in front of your face and move around and change your head position, I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
But sadly, for whatever reason, it's not working here, but that's all right. We'll move on. So, Chris, why don't you take it into our first news item?
Awesome. So I guess our first one we can cover is one that really stood out to me, and I'm going to pull up my screen here for those of our listeners that are following at home. This is coming via phys.org phys.org. It's not FIZZ.org. It's PHYS, like physics.org. Had an interesting article about 3D printed aerogels that are improving energy storage, and we've all been talking about graphene. A lot of our techno savvy listeners probably know all about aerogel. Aerogel is an amazing little substance. If you don't know about it, definitely go on eBay or Wikipedia and Google aerogel. Find out about aerogel. It's pretty interesting substance. It's really lightweight, but actually has like some structural integrity to it. And for those, others may or may not know about graphene, which is a kind of a holy grail type material that's kind of been waiting in the wings for some time. It hasn't been super cost effective to manufacture before the last couple years, and I think finally the chemists are figuring out how to. There's been some interesting research we've been covering out of Rice University, and a lot of the research institutions are studying graphene, how to manufacture it economically, because it has really promising, like capabilities. So this is an interesting application for it, and they're 3D printing lattice structures with it, and there's a video on the website. So if you go over to FICE or Fizz.org.
Pfizer.
It's not Pfizer, not Pfizer. It's Fizz. Yeah, like physics, Fizz. And here it is showing the actual. If you can see the video, it's showing it printing in a liquid bath, so they can go through the process of making a graphene lattice structure that can then either store energy as a battery cell, but it has so they have this process. They've figured out how to do this, and there's a really nice 3D visualization that they've done, kind of showing the process that they're working on. And I just thought it was really unique. It's here it is doing low electrical resistance during electrical testing, and it also is mechanically, you can compress it, which is kind of unique for any battery pack of any kind. So kind of interesting, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of it. But just kind of an interesting way that they 3D printed it into kind of a gel, almost like inside a liquid. They're actually using extrusion of the graphene material in building these little batteries.
Yeah, very, very neat. Yeah, graphene is obviously making its rounds. It's very efficient. I just read an article on it not too long ago, and one of the reasons for that is its molecular lattice that makes it super strong. In fact, I just heard somewhere it's as strong as diamonds, depending on how the lattice is composed, and extremely lightweight. All right, well, I'm going to jump right into my next item. And you probably wanted this one, and I beat you to it, Chris. This is called Sinter It. I think we talked about this many months ago. It was like a glimmer in somebody's eye, but now they're going to launch it at $5,000. For those of you who are not familiar with SLS, I guess, has been kind of the holy grail. We've been talking about it for over a year. Part of that, I'm hoping, one of the reasons this has come out is because those patents that were controlled by 3D Systems have kind of expired. So, but regardless of the patents, the actual process is still very difficult, and to get it into an affordable range, I have to give them hats off. More than likely, this is a render that you're seeing right now, but since I haven't changed my screen, there we go. Now you can see it. This is a render, but this is some examples of what they printed. But back to the SLS, you use a laser system to sinter or melt the different layers together, and essentially it's based on a nylon. What do you want to call it? A dust or what would help me out here,
material?
Chris?
Just
material.
Yeah, it's a powder.
Particles. There we go.
A powder.
So it's a powder base, and by using laser you can fuse it. And they say some of the merits of this type of technique is because you're fusing the actual powder together. You don't have the what do we call it? The less adhesive bonding that you have with standard FFF or FDM processing, because the entire layer is adhered together. But one of the things that I've noticed, and some of the things that I've had printed at Shapeways, is that it has a granular texture to it, as you can see in this here. And then they use some examples a little bit later. Here's a little paper book. Down here is another example. This was all printed as one piece with bearings. So the big advantage is, Chris, as you have found out, because you're printing with it now, nylon is a really strong material. And the fact is that they have like little tiny chicken and little furniture. So I guess they're showing the definition that you can get with it. But I think this is a huge. If they can pull it off at 5,000, that's pretty nice.
Right.
Did you read more about this? Again, this is from 3ders.org. I've actually wrote off to them and to see if they'll come on our show, do an interview with us, and talk to us more about it. But I'm more than likely the bed size isn't too large, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see a stated bed size. One thing that is also kind of beneficial about SLS over typical FDM is the powder, the unused powder. Each layer, it's building up layer by layer, and it's laying a fresh, some powder that's sintered, and the majority of it is not. And so the support material, you don't require support material because the whole thing is a solid bin of powder by the time you're finished building your part. And so there's no real support removal, there's no breakaway support necessary. You just need to have an air compressor and blow it out. Now, that being said, you also have to have some sort of containment unit, so an area where you can recollect the powder without contaminating it. You need to be safe about it because obviously you don't want to be breathing in nylon dust, so you need to have some sort of kind of jacketed area where you can put those arm things on and kind of clean it out without without breathing that dust in, so you can recycle it because that material is expensive, especially when you get into the sintering of the metals. The metals are extremely expensive. Nylon for now, luckily, I think is going to be pretty cost effective. I think Talman even has a sinter powder available. Right on Talman's website. Yep. So, because I think the hackers are this is not the only machine in the works for SLS, affordable SLS or home do-it-yourself SLS. I think we're going to see more and more machines like this in the pipeline in the next few months. So, but interesting to see. Oh, here it is: 130 millimeter by 170 millimeter by 130 millimeter build envelope. And
so the
laser's only a 5-watt laser, so it's not even really that powerful of a laser. I guess it doesn't really require that powerful of a laser to sinter this material. So.
Nope. Well, I mean, it's still I wouldn't say an expensive laser, but it's not something you can go to Staples and buy. But scan speed is 500 millimeters per second. I don't know what that equates to. What are we getting on our FDMs? Do you remember?
On what? Come again?
On a standard FDM.
For
printing scan speed,
Oh. Don't know if there's because scan speed I think has to do with the laser, how fast you're comparing it to SLA or.
Correct. Yeah. So I'll come back next week with the comparison between it. But material cost is $100, so you're looking at maybe about twice the cost. But even so, if you compare it to SLA, it's still substantially less compared to what you can get with it. It shows that it's going to be connected through Wi-Fi, so that's kind of a neat thing. So that you'll be able to use it like another product that we're going to talk about later, the AstroPrint. So it's really neat. Again, I'm going to have to really go through my couch and into the nooks and crevices where all my lost changes to come up with money.
To come up with enough. Yeah, and I don't think that they're going to be the only player in the game. I think this year and the last year, we've seen obviously a lot of FFF or deposition printers on the market, and we knew that a lot more stereolithography printers were coming, and now I think
we have had a few.
I think the SLA or the SLS print revolution is kind of starting to kick off the do-it-yourself ones.
Yeah, well, it looks like a good entry, clean design. Hats off to them, and it looks like a really good price.
Definitely.
So, all right, next item, Chris.
All right, so my next item is kind of medical related, and this one is They're Alive. Watch these mini 3D printed organs beat just like hearts. This is coming to us from Singularity Hub, and as of April 22nd. And it's an article kind of outlining something that's going on at Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine, and scientists there have genetically transformed skin cells into heart cells and used them to 3D print mini organs that beat just like your heart. Another darker organoid fused to a mini heart mimics your liver. So it just goes on to the work developed by Anthony Atala and his Wake Forest team for the Body on a Chip project aims to simulate bodily systems by microfluidicity, linking up miniature organs, hearts, livers, blood vessels, and lungs, and testing new drug treatments and chemicals or studying the effects of viruses on them. I do not know what microfluidity, linking them up miniature organs, means, but it sounds like they're, one step closer to making 3D printing heart tissue. And obviously there is a TED Talk all the way back from 2011. Wow. 2011 seems like so far ago. And there's a TED Talk that kind of, I think, is related with Dr. Anthony Atala, and he is talking about this technology. So this is obviously 4 years later. So you can imagine that the technology, a guy that's living and breathing on the cutting edge like he is, has probably come a long way. So kind of interesting. It'll be interesting. Here's another little video. So here's a video of the.
Chris, from a producer standpoint, can you increase the size of your screen, please?
Yep, you got it. So here's the. You can see a little YouTube video of these cells, 3D printed. They're lab-grown heart cells, and they're beating. What? That's a little creepy, right?
Oh no! Don't tell Will I Am about this.
Oh wow! I mean, yeah.
At Congress.
Yep. So.
They're alive.
Yeah, they are alive. The 3D printers are alive now. So, pretty cool stuff. Coming out of Wake Forest.
I was hoping to have Anderson Tao on, and he could have probably provided us a little bit of feedback on it. If you remember, Anderson Tao was the person that we had on last November who talked about what they're doing out at Rice University, which kind of segues a little bit later into another item that I have. Rice University seems to be in the news a lot lately for what they've been working on. Okay, I'm going to bounce into my next one, and it's going to be a downer.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You know it's coming, and one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because there's something else that occurred. But essentially, the 3D printer market disappoints in the first quarter of 2015. Well, again, it's like a bait link or whatever they got, link bait type title from 3ders.org. I like Alec. He does a good job of reporting, but in this case, it's like essentially what we're saying is that we have a weak market because sales are flat.
For one company.
Well, no, for multiple. He does a review of 62, but the point is they're flat, so that indicates we're going into a dive, which may not be. But the other thing that's important, if you go down later on and read more into this, is both Stratasys and 3D Systems, their stocks have been down. So, we can see that there's some indication there. But at the same time, as we have mentioned before, the reason I think personally they have gone down is that people aren't buying their larger machines. They're buying more of these smaller machines. What do we call them? Prosumer type machines. You just turned your head to your little baby over there.
Oh yeah, no, I print all day. Don't get me wrong. I do. I really enjoy some of the benefits of printing on the larger machines, but the Lulzbot machines, or the machines like the Lulzbots, they just are unbelievable for the money.
Right. Well, as we both can attest, there are a lot of really good prosumer type products that you can do really good work with, where in the past, but just say even 2 years ago, your only choice was to buy another Stratasys unit. And now that's not the case anymore. Now you have other options. So I see that as being more the reason for it. So that brings me to my next item, and that is Makerbot. And I found this obscure Crane's New York business. Once hot, now not. Makerbot shuts stores, downsizes. They essentially say about a 20% decrease in workforce at Makerbot. So a little schadenfreude there from my perspective. But it's kind of sad to see that. But again, is this really because of sales, or is it because they were integrated in the Stratasys? So now we're integrating, becoming more of a Stratasys, and with any acquisition, you do have, you know, some
vertical
weeding
integration.
Exactly. So with that being said, the fact that they did close their store kind of indicates that the store model, and if you remember in the documentary that you watched, Brett or Bree Pettis really wanted to become the Steve Jobs, and I think that store was just kind of more of the direction that he wanted to go, and I think that was one of the things that he decided when he was CEO. So, you know, stores, unless you can really push a lot of stuff through them, especially in New York, probably isn't the best way to spend your money. I do know that they're making, because I get their what do you want to call it? Their journal feeds every week. And yes, thanks. And due to that, they do seem to be making a huge push into the educational market, and they're, you know, really pushing in a lot of these things that are coming out. If you look in the background, they've got Makerbot. So I think that's where their big push is. I think they're going back to good customer service and getting away from this kind of model. So I think in the big part, yeah, it's probably going to be a good direction. You know, like a lot of companies, they're becoming lean and mean. So I'm not going to look at all this as negative, but it is something to keep your eye out. But we are seeing a lot of expansion. Okay, so I think that's all of our news items. And with that note, I think we're going to bring in our guest, Sylvain from France. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
But you know, concerning the Makerbot store, I believe also that people need to see the printers in action. And for example, here in Paris, you have only one store when you can discover printers in action. And else, we meet a lot of people on our booth when we do exhibition, and it's the first time they can see a 3D printer. And I believe it's like the microcomputers in the 80s. People wanted to see them in action, and because it's so new that you need to see it if you want to jump into it and buy one.
Well, I think the only problem with the Makerbot store is that it was somewhat extravagant, and real estate in New York is somewhat pricey. So if they may have downsized it, or what they're doing now is they're making them available in Home Depot and a few other larger chains. So you still have that opportunity. They just didn't go with that Apple store type process. You know, I think they need to have maybe one day the 3D printer. When they call it giant warehouse store, you know, the Costco of 3D printing will come out soon, where you can look at it, or a Best Buy of similar. In fact, I haven't seen any in Best Buy, so it'll be interesting. Either Best Buy is going away, but at the same time, you know, I tried to get into the consumer type market and found that it's really difficult. A lot of people wanted to see it, but nobody wanted to buy anything, and you know, you can't stay in business very long if nobody wants to buy anything, and you can't do business.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you become more of a museum or a showcase, and then if you don't have the funds to hire somebody to give demonstrations all the time, you don't make a lot of money that way. And plus, I don't think retail really is where I needed to be anyway. So that's my little viewpoint on it. Okay, well, we have you on because you know, I found this in another obscure post. I said, this is really neat, and if you saw my title, the first thing that came into my mind is Minecraft. I don't know if that came into your mind when you created this. Are you familiar with Minecraft, Sylvain?
Yeah, sure, and my kids too. Actually, yes. But so I'm 43 now. My personal background is that I used to work in the virtual worlds in the 90s. So it was a few years before Second Life. There was a first wave of virtual worlds in the mid-90s. There was a Alpha World, and what we did in France was a second world. And what we wanted in this first world was to have people create the 3D from their own. And we even provided a kind of publishing tool, authoring tool, so that people like you and me could create their own virtual worlds. But you had to bring your 3D because we did not provide any 3D modeling tool, and this was very complicated for people to bring the 3D. And so for me, it was impossible for people like you and me. I don't know you very well. Maybe you are a very good expert in 3D Studio or Maya or SolidWorks, but I will assume not. And so people like you and me cannot make the 3D. And in the years 2000, I worked on the first Internet of Things. We made Wi-Fi toys. And I discovered industrial designers with different softwares, very, very complicated. And for me, it was very impossible for people like you and me, and of course for kids, to create 3D. And one day my kids came and very excited with the iPad, and they say, Dad, look at what we did. And it was a nice castle, very elaborated. And with secret passages, and they had a lot of fun. And beyond this, what I saw is that they made something I thought it was impossible. They made 3D modeling, and they made it with a lot of fun. And in my experience, I worked with graphical designers and with industrial designers. I never met someone who said, "Oh, I have a lot of fun with my complicated tool." And my kids had, and it was. And so, with my background, I said myself, this something has changed, and something is now possible. And if we could have this kind of software when we made virtual worlds in the 90s, the story would have been quite different. And I wanted, so you probably know a few modeling tools for general public that try to simplify the complicated software. And I believe it does not really work because it's still complicated, because it's the DNA of this tool is very technical, and it's a bit boring for people, and still very complicated to use. So what I wanted to do is start from what is really working, so Minecraft. So I completely accept that people see the Minecraft spirit, because this is it. And but Minecraft, you know, probably how to use the game. It's cubes. They are all the same size, and you work one cube at a time. And
so
what I want,
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and run your little video in the background,
yes?
so you can continue talking, so that people can get an idea of what this program's all about.
Yeah. So
and the product itself is called 3D Slash, right? 3D Slash.
Yeah. So you work with cubes, but there are different sizes. You know, now we are on the smaller size of cubes. You have a lot different size on the left part of the screen. You can use tools which are more like manual labor, like a stone cutter, and so you can work with not only with one cube at a time. You can use pictures, you can use paper graph, and it will help you to work and to create the actual part with the accurate size. When you like electronics, you can make your cases. It's a lot of fun to make cases like this, and if you like electronics, it's quite a revolution, because it has always been an issue. Here you can use two pictures. You apply two pictures, and it's you know, it's like butter. You can work it like it was as it was butter, and we made a key, for example. It's a way to modify a bit. Just by pushing part. Here it's more advanced. It's copy-paste with symmetrical, but it was for simple things for my daughter. And here we can see that even with cubes, which are very little, you can make curves. So we have cones, spheres, and when it's printed, you cannot see the cubes anymore. Here we started from an existing iPhone case, iPhone and Thingiverse. It is imported and converted into very small cubes, and now you can work on it. Maybe this his iPhone case was made with a very, very complicated software, but now people like you and me can customize it with basic tools with 3D Slash. So, this video is from the home page of the website.
Very
and here,
cool.
Okay, so yeah, speak later. Yeah, okay.
So I've actually brought the program up. It's very lightweight. I think it's like 8 megs, so it's easy to down. Actually, I can't remember.
No, it's 1 meg. 1 meg. It's very, very light.
One? Yeah, it's
1 meg,
very
yes.
small. Okay.
And even smaller
so
on
easy.
Mac.
So this is the Windows version. Now it also, from what I understood, is finger. What do you want to call it? Friendly. So if you have a tablet-based Windows, now does that mean you're making an iPad version of this as well? Is that one of the reasons, or?
Yes, it's actually working, but not yet on the App Store. But last week we were at the 3D print show in New York, and people could try it on our booth.
Wow.
So yeah, just select select the size. Yes, not so small. You see, and you click like this. And but you know, the name of the company, the 3D Slash, is more another tool. So you can click on the hammer on the top left. Click on the hammer, yes, and select the chisel. No, next. No, yes, this one. Yeah. No, the third one. Yeah.
The third one.
This one right here.
Yeah, the third one.
Okay, this is the chisel. Oh, okay.
Yes. And now you see you will be able to remove rows of cubes, like if you
okay.
Yes, like
Boom,
this.
like that.
So it depends on the side on which.
It's like 3D modeling meets Minecraft is really what it is. It's very similar. I could I could see our nephews just eating this up. They would love this, and then they could come up with their designs, and I could bring them over and 3D print them.
Yeah. So playing with this a little bit the other day, and I used that in order to create the image for our promo shot. But so I can export this, right? Or actually can open up a standard model. And what formats can I bring into this?
No, here you click on the open, so it will open your project. Then you have the import, but import is import STL file. So, but on the Windows version, it's only by drag and drop. So if you have a STL file on your PC, you can just drag and drop, and it is converted into very small cubes.
Okay, sounds good. And then you can export.
Then you can see on the picture on the on the left side, you have an icon of a sun and a mountain. The left side.
Okay.
Can you see? So you can click on it.
Which one?
Yes, the sun and the landscape. No. No. Yes, this one. Click. Yeah.
Okay.
No, not this one. The fourth one.
Okay, the picture.
Yes. And select pictures on any
and then you
side.
But then you drag and drop your picture onto it.
Yes. So now you don't have any pictures, but then it could.
We'll have a picture.
Maybe, yes.
So you can, and it looks like you can select which plane it wants to put it on. So that looks like a really user-friendly way. Really cool. I like that. It is very direct. It's very colorful, very direct, and here's what plane it's putting it on, or the side, and I'll check that out. That's very cool.
Maybe you can also close this window and go back to the website, because there are 2 versions of the software. The user should click Get Started first. It's a big button. It's a big red button. Can you see the big red button? Get Started. Yes, click on it. Yes. So, and this is a web-based version of the tool. So click on Create now. And so it's almost the same. You can break some cubes. Yes. And so it's almost the same version. It's directly the website. yes, it's web-based, so it's a bit less powerful because it's web technology, but nothing to install. You are not even registered for now.
Wow.
Yeah, I had actually registered earlier, but I didn't want to sign in.
So,
now, is there a cost to this?
And now you can click on the. For now, it's free, and we will add a premium version, premium features. But for now, this is free, and this will remain free.
Wow.
And now that you made a very beautiful thing, you can click on the print button you see on the top right. Yes, this one. And yes, here we are.
Okay. And actually, this is how I came about that. I had seen, because I work with Sculptio, and then they were advertising this. So that's how I came about this. So this is kind of cool. So you can use 3D hubs, Sculptio, Z-Pro, and Materialize in order to get your product printed.
Yeah, so Z-Pro is a bit different because, you know, it's a printer. It's an actual desktop printer from a company based in San Francisco. And their printer is Wi-Fi. So if you click on print and you have Z-Pro printer, yes, but do it because you don't have a Z-Pro printer. But if you have one, you can click there, and it will allow you to start the printing directly. Oh, and if you go down, if you scroll down.
Okay. Oh, there's more.
So, yes,
I can share it on Facebook right now.
Yes, and the interesting point with the share on Facebook is that your friends will see your thing, but they will also have a link to continue the work and to make better things with your work. And so I believe that this is a new kind of community where people can share and improve their 3D design, and I believe it can be engaging.
Okay.
Well, are you talking about? Are you talking about? Are you referring to Umagine?
Yes, and so with the Umagine there, you can export the design on Umagine, but maybe you can go to Umagine website. Because I can show you something.
I spend a lot of time on Umagine now.
Yes. Can you go on their website? Yes.
Yeah, he's I think he's heading over there right now. One of the things I really like about Umagine, not only is it the people behind the Ultimaker that are behind Umagine, they're always implementing a lot of really great new features, and they have this discussion thing that pops up that's actually really fun. And kind of engaging. When you scroll down on the website towards the bottom, you can actually see discussions that are going on the fly. So here's a discussion talking about this is going on right now. These people are typing these things. And what I found, one of the things I really like about Umagine is it's a really lively. There's a lot of discussions going on, and you can learn a tremendous amount from the website. So, and it's very engaging because you can actually see where people are posting on live.
Yeah.
So people helping each other right here. Right now.
Yeah. Okay. Can you scroll up a bit? Yes. Yes. Click on the down. Scroll down a bit. Yes. Select this. Printerbot LCD housing, for example.
Oh yeah, that one right there. Yeah.
Yes, because I'm sure there is STL5 there. And now you click on document. There is a documents tab. You see, okay. And now you want to click on the drop-down menu of download STL. You see.
The drop down.
Click on the drop. We'll do the We'll do the SLD.
Click on the drop down menu. No, not there. The drop down menu.
Yeah, the little arrow, next to that. Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
And there's actually an edit in 3D / button now. Huh.
Yes. And now it's importing the STL file. The STL file was not made with 3D /. Okay. was made with, I don't know. But now it is in 3D Slash, and if you zoom in, we will see the cubes. Yes. These are small cubes. But now you can work on them, and maybe you can change the whole or
maybe
hide
I can
your
obliterate
logo.
it.
Yes, sure. I'm afraid it will not work so well now.
Wow, that's a really
fun
cool
destroying it.
thing, though. That that you're right in. You imagine.
Yes,
direct
great guy.
You want to make a small edit, and you don't have sophisticated 3D CAD software on your computer. This might be a really great way for you to kind of get started. So
one of the things that I noticed.
.net.
One of the things I noticed, and we'll move on to the next item, is that I tried to use Control-Z, which most Windows applications, that's the undo, and I'm thinking, there's no undo on this, but there is. It's right over here.
Yes, it's a bit too I don't know the name, but the idea was to keep with your hand. So it's more a touch vision with your fingers, but it's too much. We will definitely add keyboard shortcuts. But yes, the idea is that in the future there is no more keyboard, but just your hands.
Well, I'm going to try this on my little Windows tablet a little later today. I think it'll probably work great. And I've been asking more people, they make large targets, but they don't really make it finger-friendly. One of the cases is the people I work with out at Occipital, they have a product called Sconnect that's perfect for doing touch-based. And I keep telling them that I think that's a direction to go. Still have the keyboard, mouse, and shortcuts, but also provide it. So I'm going to try this out there, and I'll get some feedback next week. We're going to move on, but really, really appreciate you coming on, Sylvain. This is a fun little product, and I'm going to do one of these things and put it on Facebook and see if people will follow me and make modifications to it. I'll send you an invite, Sylvain. Obviously, you're probably a pro at this. You could probably create something custom. All right, well, we appreciate you having on. You're welcome to stay further, but we're going to move on to our next items.
And for our users, for our listeners?
I will leave, but because it's quite late now in France. But I really thank you for your time and your welcome.
All right, thanks so
well,
much.
This is really fun, and I'm glad we had you on. Thank you.
And
all right,
it's
Chris.
3D/.net is where you want to head over to check it out. It's like the Minecraft of 3D editing. I think it's a really cool tool.
As in the
Can't
title.
wait to check it out and play around with it a bit later today. So.
Right.
So where does that leave us, Mike?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go right into. I really want to cover this, so I'm going to go right into my new BioCapture program, so I'm going to set it up right now. I've been working on this for some time, right?
I do. You have been working on this nonstop. And I can tell you've put a lot of energy into it, Mike, so I'm sure it's going to be good because I know you and I know things that you put your heart into generally turn out pretty damn good. So
okay, well, here we go. Ready? Dun, da, da,
all right, I'm ready.
Dun, da, da, dun, da, da. So here
oh, what is this?
So this is my assistant Helga, but this is
Hi, Helga.
And
she's looking a little frail. Helga is.
But I have added, and if you can't hear me, I'll yell. But I've added quite a few controls, and I'll go through them really quick here in a moment. But essentially, I'll bring it back over. Up in the left-hand corner, you can modify the number of faces. 50,000 to 300,000, and that gives you, as you're probably aware if you've been working in this, more face detail when you're doing the color processing. Then Occipital has two different depth modes. One is just using the depth sensor, and the other one is using a new technique that they've been working with called RGB in depth, where they're actually using color information and the depth information for stitching, so that way you don't lose tracking. So with a cylinder which doesn't have any distinct 3D surfaces, you can use the color information like a Coke can, so then you can determine edges based upon the actual texture, and that really has been working well. And then I've added some new features, and I'll just work on this item here. I have found, they have a pinch to zoom that allows you to create a cube and modify it, but I found that that's a little, you have to take your hands off the sides. So I have now added a little window over here that allows me to go down to 10 centimeters and all the way up to 1 meter for smaller objects. But you don't have to take your hands off the tablet. Before, you had to hold it in one hand and use the pinch to zoom, and I found that this feature is a little bit better. So that's what I have off to the side, and then if you can see, it varies the actual distance, and there's a number above the slider itself. It's a little more programming work because iOS does not provide vertical sliders, so I'm using my friends out at, I can't think of their names now. A couple of people have already solved this problem. I varied it in order to create my little slider. Down on the bottom is a feature that they've never really implemented, but it allows you to increase the volume resolution. And it's stuck at a figure of 128, and it's essentially a ratio, so I'm not going to give a lot of details on what it does, but it literally creates more voxels. And it works in conjunction with the size of your cube. The smaller the cube, obviously the denser your voxels are going to be, and then if you use the slider in the bottom hand left side, you can make it extremely dense. There is a caveat though, because you're working with an iPad, the iPad, here, I'll go back to this side. The iPad doesn't have the horsepower that your PC does. So when I scan this item here, it takes a little.
Here he is. Press scan. Wow.
Now, if I let it, and the other thing is because it's a higher resolution, it has more noise, so you have to scan a little longer to get more detail. But I'm going to go to the X-ray view, and you can see how small the triangle faces are now. And the important thing is, and this is something that I've been telling a lot of them, they all want to push or decimate to a smaller number of faces. But the problem with that is, if you're familiar with, and you said you were taking calculus, especially, you don't really want to minimize it too much, because then you don't get the area under the curve, as they say. So you don't distinguish curves. And since this is nothing more than using a bunch of flat faces to describe curves, the more obvious flat faces you have, the better the curves. So when you're 3D printing, I have found, especially the Itzy's product, that it uses too few curves in order to get a smooth facing. Also, you need the extra curves because with the 4 eyes lens system, by the way, which is on here, and I'll fade back to it, the new 4 eyes version 2, you can get closer to it, which means you can get more detail. So that's important as well. So the big plus about this application is that now we have all this capability in the iOS app. Never before, but now we do. And my buddy down in LA, who's been helping finance this, he'll get first crack at it, and we're going to call it BioCapture. And there's one other feature that I want to describe, and this is really cool, and this is kind of the secret sauce that's going to be released in this version. But down in the bottom right-hand corner, you have a control, and I'm going to have to figure out how to assign some type of label to this so that it's not obtrusive. But this is for the camera focus. Because we can now capture more color detail, I have control, because iOS provides it, of doing automatic. And if you notice, watch the camera. Notice how it's focusing.
Right.
Okay. But there might be like a regular camera where you don't want to do that. You want to lock in, let's say on your head, but you want to scan the whole area. I have right below the scan button a focus lock. Now watch what happens. Boom. We lock into your head. We go to manual, and we do have some granular control down on the bottom right-hand side. And there's an indicator off to the side of, it's a variable because, again, we don't have a true distance, because if you're using this on an iPhone, which is coming out as well, the cameras are different. So it's just a slider to give you a number. There is no relationship. It appears to be a logarithmic relationship anyways. But now we're locked in. Notice I no longer have any control over the focus. So the idea is, you know, you can hit this focus lock at any time, target what you want to scan, and then you hit the focus lock, and then you scan. And it's not going to work for me. Let's make our box smaller. Okay, focus scan. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, I'm not going to waste our time. So I've gotten the backs of those. Now I can go to color view, and it's now going to add the new super textures to this. And because I had focused it, we should get some really decent, not as good as Itzy's, because they're, you know, here we're using, there we go. They're using the full 8 megapixels. We're maybe using 3 to 4 megapixel portion of it. But the thing is, if you're wanting to print these out using the gypsum base, which I just scanned, they don't support any more than, let's say, 2K worth of, or 2 megapixels worth of information. Can't go more than 1024. Their printer doesn't handle it. So keep that in mind. You might get this high resolution image, but if you're wanting to 3D print these on all these color printers, you're kind of wasting your pixels there. So for now, this thing is more than adequate to do that. There you go. I captured a little bit of it. If I would have played around with it more, I would have been able to capture more. So that's it.
Very cool project,
right now, I have an email. I'm going to be able to lock this in using Dropbox so that you can upload it there or email it to yourself, and that will be in the version. And this is coming out in May. So pretty excited about that.
Very cool, Mike. Well, thank you so much for sharing your, your software with us, because that's fun and cool, and it's, you're taking a risk. So,
yeah, right.
But out there.
Okay, Chris, how about we jump right to I don't know, what do you want? You want to do the article that came out on the Carbon3D, or you want to get into the Print Whisper right now?
Well, I see a few things. Yeah, I can talk about my projects.
Okay.
We could talk about yeah. And so this week, really had a good time. Came in on Monday. My parts for the upgrade from the TAS 4 to the TAS 5 were all here. And it was really easy to upgrade. And that's the beauty of these modular systems and having it all, future prepared. That's one of the things that I really give kudos to the ALIF Objects team and LittleSpot team, is they make the machine future upgradable. They think about things like that when they're designing their machine. So the upgrade to the new all metal hot end went really painlessly. Went through, took my little dial, throw my dial indicator across the room here real quick. And I have a little dial indicator I printed out to help level my bed, and got it super dialed in. And that will take us into my Print Whisperer tip. Was I had these prints coming off super good. Here's a calibration print, and it is super high quality. Really, really some of the best calibration prints I've pulled off any printer, Stratasys included. Just really accurate, dimensionally accurate. Just all square, very square, really good first layer adhesion, all the things that I try to make sure that my printer is doing, it hit. And then last night printed a nice big, you know, sample print just to, you know, really make sure that it was all dialed in, locked in. And I was impatient. So this is my Print Whisper tip of the day, tip of the week, is be patient. Don't try to peel your part off with your tool before the print bed is cold, especially if you're printing on PET or PEI like I am. So I've got a PET print tape that's on top of my glass, my heated bed, right? And it really helps with adhesion, and it's really a great print surface. So I'm heating up now to 110 C in my bed, and that's really helping a lot with the warpage. I'm not getting any ABS warpage anymore. The body of the model is staying nice and hot, or at like a uniform temperature, and it really helps with layer adhesion. That's why you get these really, I mean, you can't even see the lines on the printer, on this printer. I mean, it's really just a nice print. But if you don't wait for it to cool, I ended up prying off part of my actual PET tape. So put a big gouge in it, and that's no fun, because then you have to go through the trouble of basically taking the feet off of your heated bed, peeling off the bad PET, you know, cleaning the surface or prepping the surface, you know, and none of this stuff takes too terribly long. I mean, I did it in about a half hour, and then then you have to heat it up and cool the bed, heat it up, and then you're gonna have to recalibrate. So that one little mistake, if I would have just waited 5 minutes for my printer to cool down a little bit, and the part would have just wiggled right off probably, my impatience cost me maybe an hour or two of getting, and I had it perfectly calibrated. So now I have to go back and hopefully get to the point where I was and recalibrate the machine again.
You know, it appears your last few horse whisper, your print whispers have been based upon trials and tribulations, cutting your fingers.
Yeah, be safe, definitely. Yep. And little alert, you know, that's the thing, is that, you know, the saying is a stupid man never learns from his mistakes. A smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from others' mistakes. So I'm hoping that our listeners can become wise men and learn from our mistakes.
From our stupid mistakes.
Yeah, and I can share those with people and help them succeed, because there's definitely a learning curve with any of this stuff, and I'm just trying to do my best to share what I've come across. Especially with this, you know, open source community, that's just such a beautiful thing. I really appreciate all the information that all these people at RepRap and you know, Ultimaker and Lulzbot, they're just so open with the information. But any of these forums you go on, the people generally are just, they're there to help. They're really helpful, and rather than having to scour the forums like I do, hopefully I can just pass on some of this information to our listeners.
Well, I really appreciate that, Chris. Hey, one thing that I noticed when I was printing in PET, and maybe I could have shared this with you, and because it was a bad experience. Remember last year, about the same time, I was using the PET from Made Solid, the nice ruby translucent, and I was printing out that little character, what did they call it, the she-warrior or something, the huntress. And yeah, it was the bust of the huntress, and it was fairly large. And the first time I did it, I came back and it only printed like 1/3 of it, and the rest of it was just a spool, like this big ball of fuzz. And the reason for that was I had modified my Makerbot Replicator 2 with a heated bed, but I didn't have it set up to work inside the controller. It was all done exteriorly, that's not a word, through an exterior power supply. So I had left, and I didn't want it to be on. So I thought, well, I heated up the bed, the first few layers are stuck, then I can just leave it alone. Big mistake. pet, or at least the pet that I was using, if you let the bed cool, it pops right off, it dislodged, and the next thing you know, I was printing in air. So that was a mistake that I had made, and that's why, yeah, I agree. If you would have probably let it cool, it would have just probably popped right off, and you wouldn't have had to even use that little thing. So it's funny what we learn and over the years, it hasn't been years, months. Okay, I want to get right into the Carbon3D again. You know, we've talked about it almost on every show. Why? Because it's pretty cool, and I was hoping to get Anderson Tan, and I have to thank him because he was in Google Plus, and he had, I guess a lot of people are talking about this in the forums. You know, how are they able to do that? And they pretty much, it's kind of interesting, Science magazine put out this PDF report that's behind me. And one of the authors is from Carbon3D themselves. And it talks about how they were able to not necessarily overcome, but how do they increase the time or reduce the time it takes to print. And they do this, and we talked about it by using an oxygen permeable window, which they now have figured out to be a Teflon, I want to say 2400, but it is a particular type of Teflon material, and it is obviously very permeable to oxygen. But I was thinking, you know, maybe it could be other things as well. But then if you read this article, and there's some really good geek stuff in here, a couple of equations, so you can actually figure out the layer height that the material needs to be, how long that your UV layer images need to be. That's all in this article. So literally, if you have the money, you could probably retrofit your own. So I started thinking about some other things. One is, yes, oxygen seems to be what you're going to work with. But oxygen, or pure oxygen, as you're probably aware of, ignites fairly easily. So I see it as possibly a safety hazard, but maybe you're not using much. And then I've been also thinking, oh, what else could you use? And I'm thinking, why did they name their company Carbon3D? Anderson thinks it's because, you know, the building blocks of life. I still think there's something else involved in this, but who knows? It could just be purely oxygen. But they said when they tried nitrogen, which is even more permeable, which means it passes through the material better, did not create the dead zone that's required. In fact, there wasn't a dead zone, and there is, do they have a chart a little bit later? Did I pass it up? Here we go. Here's some of our illustrations. Okay. So they talk about your layer heights. Maybe that was in something else. But essentially, nitrogen doesn't provide the dead zone. And there's a chart, I think, in here, but I'm not going to run through it. So you can't use nitrogen. Oxygen, because it creates the proper dead zone, which is important here. This is the area that you do not want to print in. This is what allows this thing to print so quickly. And here's a little, if you see my, I don't know if you, yeah, you can see my cursor here. If you see this little image over here, here's your imaging unit. It comes through the permeable window. Here's the dead zone that's created. So it doesn't show how the oxygen is being pushed up in here. But that dead zone, you literally, it creates kind of a, what would you call it, a capillary effect where it feeds the resin up here. So literally you just have to move the bed up and it sucks resin back into the dead zone. You keep printing and you don't stop. So that's pretty cool. So the thing that I'm looking at, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with how DLP projectors work, but currently there are a bunch of little shutter mirrors. So there's a finite speed that these work at. And some of the ones that I've worked with, you can get up to 120 hertz. So that's got to play a part in your performance, unless you do something custom, which they may be working on. But for us, who go out and buy the Acer or other projectors, you're limited on the refresh rate of the projector itself in order to create your layers. But yeah, there seems to be some truth that all you need to do is lift the bed and it will continuously feed resin into that dead zone, which would allow you to have a continuous part. And they said in order to increase performance, you just reduce the resolution. And this is what they show you, 100 micrometers and then they show a magnification at 400 and then 25. And then yes, it does appear it could print down to 1 micron. And look at that. Isn't that, I mean, that's outstanding. Now, again, from what I read in the article, what's the caveat? Takes more time. But isn't that the case with SLA to begin with? Finer resolution, more time. But now if you can introduce this at a much faster speed, you could print at this resolution and even be better performing than your standard SLAs out there. So it really does look like they've come up with a winner here. And I really look excited to finding out more about this and seeing what some of the people in the forums, some of the other brighter people like Brad come up with this. The thing that I've read is that the Teflon material, and I apologize for not knowing it right off the top of my head, is somewhat expensive, but with forums and crowdsourcing, you could buy a huge sheet of this, cut it up amongst many people, and reduce your cost for it. So there is actually lots of thoughts in there. So I think that's cool. I was hoping to have either Brad or Anderson join me in on this. So hopefully, sorry, Anderson, if you're listening, I hope I covered it properly. If not, just send me a note and spank my hand. But I think I pretty much got the right idea on it. As you know, Anderson is one of the researchers and scientists out at Rice University who works with 3D printing for their bio printing functionality there, and they are looking at some of these other new technologies to help move that forward. Okay, well, that's it for that item. So now I want to go right into the VR corner. And
into the VR corner.
The VR corner in a round room. And, Brian, I guess, was stuck in traffic, so he couldn't make it on, but I'm going to do it for him. He sent me this little video. I don't know if you're familiar with Blackmagic, but they create, not Blackmagic, but Blackmagic makes cameras. I'll use the word low cost, but they're high performance camera, and he bought a 4K, what they call it, the cinema camera, and he put this together, and it's kind of neat, and I'm going to go ahead and play it right now. Play. There we go. Okay. Now, with YouTube, you can use your WASD keys, just like a game, and I'm going to rotate around. Oh my God! Wait, who is that guy? That's what? There's two of them. Told me they're twins, but I have a feeling what he did, because he only has one camera, he took two shots. He's got a very almost a fisheye type lens that he put on this, and he took two different sequences, front and back, and I guess his producer or one of the people that he works with play acted this. But look at this. What I did is I took his footage, converted it using YouTube. Isn't that kind of neat?
Wow.
So what he's planning to do with this is he's going to create a series called 360 in New York City Minute. And he's going to go through there and talk about that. So.
This is like kind of like it's video Google Street View.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This is like bringing, because it's like traveling. You could travel. You could go see museums. You could learn you could be in a virtual classroom now. So, and rather than interacting with a very static, two-dimensional environment, now we have the capability to work in this dynamic 3D environment where, who knows, it probably won't be long before there will be actual physical, with haptic feedback like we've covered on our program before. So you could actually be interacting with the video with objects, whereas if you get hit by a car in the thing, you get hit by a car in real life, like it had in the...
No, I don't think we want to do that.
In what was the show that was Oddities? What was it? What was that one show? It was like Twilight Zone. There was a Twilight Zone style show that was like...
Oh, it was Outer Limits. You talking about the
Outer Limits? That's what it is. Yeah, Outer Limits. That's this reminds me just of Outer Limits kind of.
One of the note on this that I thought was pretty cool, and I found this out by accident because I've been playing with it. As mentioned, YouTube has the ability now to upload 360s. There's going to be a bunch of cameras coming out in the next few months that allow you to do 360 from $300 to $500. I had the V360 on, which is a panoramic camera, but it's more of a cylinder. In fact, they've messed with their player because now my panoramics that I had up before are all distorted. So, and I've tried to ask them why they did that. But the other important thing is that YouTube on an Android phone also plays these panoramics. and it will use the gyro and the IMU inside your Android so that you can literally put it in front of your face and move around with it. It doesn't provide the slicing for each eye that's required to put it in like the Gear VR, but that's coming. So you'll be able to take any of these YouTube videos and start playing with them. And obviously Brian's moving ahead with that. He's also working on stereo imaging, which will provide a true depth along with it, and I've been tinkering with it a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty cool. A couple of other items. I'm not going to actually bring them up on the screen, but other than this one here, which I'll jump back to. If you are one of the lucky people who has the Android Galaxy X6, they will now have this available, which is the Gear VR for the 6, and you can order it today or pre-order it. It's a slimmer design because the S6 is smaller than the Note 4, and there it's shown in the front of it, and it clips in, but provides the same optics, but at the same price. So it's still a little pricey at $200. And as you know, I'm working on the Neoti VR, which will provide something similar for iOS devices, and the secret sauce, which is provide environment awareness. But it's kind of neat that this is coming out. The other news that I'm not going to bring up is that if you can get into it, Valve has opened up applications for the Vive VR. We talked about that. That's the combination HTC Vive and the Steam, which is actually Valve, have gotten together and they're creating their own headset. One of the neat things about their particular product is their headset has also kind of an environment awareness. You can put sensors or transmitters in the corners of your room, and it will use that in order to locate where you're at. The problem with that is that you still need a PC, so you'll have to put it in some type of backpack like we saw at Real 2015 or something like that, because you still need a fairly beefy machine in order to show it. So hopefully with what I'm working on, you won't need that anymore. But that's our VR corner in the round room. And then in 3D medicine, I'll really bring this up quick. You talked about one item already, about how building living organisms now from, was it stem cells?
Eating heart cells.
Yes. The other one is also from Rice University, but there's some students there who've created a device, a 3D printed cylinder right there that doesn't use needles per se. And what does it say? It's like an extreme cold pack that numbs the site just before the shots, so you don't actually feel the piercing. So that's kind of cool. The other thing that I've heard in the news, and I'm looking for the article, I heard it on NPR. There's Science Friday. They were talking about the Carbon3D, but there's some researchers, and again, it fails me on where they're at, but they're developing something like this, but using the Carbon3D because of its precision in order to create their needle structure. So hopefully I can find that at a later date. All right, so that's 3D in medicine. We've already talked about my project. And well, we got about 15 more minutes. We talked about our SLA, digital toolbox. I can do this in about 5 minutes. You know, I couldn't do it last week because I didn't have Fusion 360 updated, but I do now. So I'm launching it right now. And
give us a little demo.
Yeah. Hopefully it launches. Good. You know, I've noticed that the icon for Fusion 360, if you put a shortcut on your desk and then you update it, that it doesn't work anymore. So I have to actually go out to the icon. So let's see if this comes up now. Here we go. All right, so it's coming up. There may be a little stuttering because it does go out and connect to the internet. So if you lose me, yeah, you know, I think Fusion 360 is pretty powerful, but in my opinion, they rely too much on the cloud, and it kind of makes it clunky, and that's my opinion. And since I've used it to design a lot of my products, I do have a little experience with it. And like one of the things is that it's doing some updatings right now that I didn't ask for. So it tries to do a lot of things, like a lot of these programs, to make you not have to think about it, but sometimes I like to think about it. Plus, I've noticed their cloud functionality is down more than it needs to be. And you know what? I'm running into the same problem I did before. The window does not show up. Do you remember I talked about that before, Chris?
Vaguely.
So let's see if I can bring a... Some programs rely, or they turn the whole, they use either DirectX or OpenGL, and I have found that sometimes they don't come up. Let's see if I can get it to come up. And nope. So I'll have to put a little video together, and then I'll just show it next week. So again, I apologize. I should have tested this beforehand, but it does not work. And now I've lost my screen. Okay, so on that note, no digital toolbox for this week unless you got something to show. Update from, oh, wait a minute. I do have something to show.
We have an update.
Okay. We have an update, which I'll cover in a moment. That's with Astroprint. But guess what came in? I wrote them a little note and said, you know, I run a show every Friday. It would be kind of neat if I kind of got my unit before anybody else. I don't know if that was the case, but it showed up today, and I guess it comes from, I don't know, but they sent it DHL. It had to go through inspection. Maybe they thought it was some type of bomb. I don't know. But let's see. I'm trying to think of what the best camera is to show this on. I guess I can... I'll just bring it up to my face. Yeah, we'll just do that. Okay. All right, so here we go. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, the 3 Doodler 2.0.
So if you remember when I was at CES, I covered them, and I had signed up because it's fairly low cost. I think it was like $90 or something like that. And I'm going to do... Is that you?
No.
I'm hearing noise. Hearing lots of noise somewhere.
I'm not hearing it. But the 3 Doodler, obviously a pretty fun little toy. I can't wait to see what you come up with, Mike, with the 3 Doodler. What are you going to doodle?
Well, here's the... I'm just doing an open... Well, actually, I'm going to use it more as a glue pen. It's going to be my hot glue. Remember we talked about? So look at this. It kind of comes with a stock. Here is... Comes with some Flexi. It comes with some PLA. It comes with some more PLA in different colors. Oh,
wow, those are nice colors too. I like those. I like that little palette.
Some ABS.
Very cool.
Notice the green disappears. And then some more ABS. So you can print in ABS and PLA and in a flexible material, and probably other things, because one of the things that's different about this, and then I'm going to take, let's see, the box, and then inside you have your little charger, and then you have a lot of accessories and a little case to hold it in right there. So it's well packaged. Has a little tool to remove the head. I don't know what this other tool is here, this long slender thing. It may be to clean it out. Yeah, it looks like a push rod of some sort. But the actual unit itself, I did charge it the other last night. I think it was charged when I got it. So turning it on, no, it doesn't want to work. Maybe I didn't charge. I broke it already.
I'm sure there's a secret to turn it on.
Well,
I think they probably don't want you to accidentally turn it on just because it's in your backpack or something, because then you could burn a hole in your bag or burn yourself.
Yeah.
So they probably make it a little trickier than just a one button push. That would be my guess.
Or the fact is that it doesn't turn on until you put some filament in it.
There you go.
Well, let's see. The quick start says, plug in your Doodler, insert your strand, ready, set. Oh, there's the key. This is not battery operated, it appears. So you have to have your charger. It's not even a charger. It is your power supply. So that has to be plugged in, and then you put it in. So it did have a light on. I thought it was battery operated. It doesn't appear to be. But, here's your little instructions. It's probably that easy. You put your filament in. And like I said, I'm going to use it like a glue gun. There's been many times where I glue things together and I use super glue. But in some cases, there might be a little pit or something that I'd like to fill and then sand down. So that's the big reason that I bought it. I don't know if I'm going to do anything creative with it, but it's reasonably priced. And if somebody wants to get in, it might be kind of a good stocking stuffer for this Christmas to get something like that. I know a lot of people got those last year. So that's the unboxing of the Doodler 2 or 3D Doodler 2.
3D
And finally, one thing that's really quick, I'm going to bring up Astro. I've talked about them several times on previous shows. Astroprint just announced that they are now covering the sailfish types of, what do you want to call it, boards. The big reason that this is important, this is what's used in the Makerbots. So I guess up to this time, you couldn't use your Astroprint with it. It was basically, what's the other type of boards that are out there? Help me out.
Arduinos, Rambo.
No, I can't think of them right now. But I've used it on two of my other printers that support this other board, as well as the Ultimaker. But now that you can use the Sailfish and you've got a Makerbot, you can use the Astroprint with it. And as mentioned before, you can either use their slicer in the cloud, or it imports Gerber code directly into it, or Gerber code, however you want to pronounce that. So you can bring your files into it, and then, like I say, it's my particular version that I used is the Raspberry Pi. I am updating it to use the Raspberry Pi 2, see if it helps perform a little bit better. But I found that it really doesn't need it. It's Wi-Fi controlled. And the other thing is, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the FlashForge series of printers also use a Sailfish controller. So if you have a FlashForge, it'll work with that as well. And then there's one other type that I've never heard of. It'll be in the show notes. What do I have here? It is called Wanho or Wanho or How. Probably a Chinese brand. So pretty neat. Have you worked with this yet?
Not yet. I'm really looking forward to trying it out. I've kind of got a couple things kind of ahead of that, but it's definitely on the list. So I'll check out Astroprint hopefully by the end of the week next week. So, and have a little hands-on with it.
Well, what's neat about it, it's web-based, so you can literally check on your printer from anywhere, as long as you open up the ports on your router to be able to check it from anywhere. But kind of a neat little unit. All right, so that's it for me. What do we got in the show for events coming up?
Oh, let's check our events at 3dprintingforbeginners.com/fair-events, which is a great place to check out what's going on. So we are quickly moving through April, aren't we? We've got 3D Printing Live Europe 2015 coming next week. Budapest 3D Printing Days going on in the second week of May. And then the big one, a couple big ones coming up. We've got Maker Faire Bay Area, which is I'm hoping so badly that I can go to that. And Rapid 2015.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we will. We will. We will. We don't need to talk about it maybe on there. And then Rapid 2015 is another one you and I have gone to. That's a great up and coming show, and that's coming up in the middle of April as well in Long Beach this time. They moved it. Yeah, and then just some other miscellaneous shows all over the world. It's just exploding. The 3D print shows are exploding all over. So, yeah, you can check out the full list over at 3dprintingforbbeginners.com/fair_events.
Great. Thank you. And again, that will be in the show notes. Okay. So finally, upcoming next week, we have Monica, who's going to join us. She's part of the MedX Make team. One of the reasons that she's coming on is one, I'm hoping to get somebody as more of a regular to cover our medical 3D side of it. But she's also going to talk about MedX, which goes or corresponds to the same time frame as the Maker Faire in San Mateo. At Stanford, I've been invited up there to actually give a talk. I think on Thursday, and then I've also been invited to be part of a panel and another interview with Make magazine on Sunday. So I'm going to be up there for a while. So I'm hoping, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk, that Chris, that you could join me a couple of days and we can cover the show together, since I'm already going to be up there, and so it should be pretty fun. But Monica will be with us. Is there anything else that we're going to cover next week? Oh, we've got another interview on Tuesday with a gentleman from Sweden. The guy that we talked about their product, he's going to be joining us on Tuesday at 10 a.m. or somewhere around there. I'll have the time up pretty soon. And then that'll be pretty much it, other than for 3D in Review on Friday. So on that note, one other thing, hey, if this is the first time watching this, take a moment.
Subscribe to us.
Subscribe to us. We've got this thing going on every week. We talk about all kinds of things in 3D print. We bring on people from around the world to talk about something they just brought out. So we'd love you to be on there. We also do.
We've just had some really good discussions. Sylvan from today, even. I mean, he was a great guest, and really appreciate him.
I almost forgot. We had on Tuesday a couple of ladies from Canada who, one of them was the CEO of a company called
Pet Prints.
Pet Prints 3D. Yep. What they do is they take pictures of your pet, and they have some great creative and talented 3D artists turn it into a 3D object and then print it on their object. What was it, 650s? Was that correct? Project.
The object. Yeah. Yep. The Project 660s.
Yeah, the nice, beautiful color. They've got some secret sauce in order to get them to look really good. If you don't know about them, we did an interview with them on Tuesday. It's out there on YouTube. Watch it. Look them up. They can do some really great stuff and make your pet come alive. Well, I guess if you move it around, it'll come alive. But yes, please subscribe to us. We've got all kinds of fun stuff that we talk about every week. And on that note, Chris, sign us off.
All right. Well, thanks again to our listeners for joining us. And we learned all kinds of things. You can review our show notes. Will be attached in the YouTube description. And if you want to follow up and read those articles in detail that we covered in today's podcast. And we will see you next week on All Things 3D.
Bye.